Life is not going to stop to be gentle with you. It won't wait for you to be ready. It tests, pushes, challenges, and not to destroy you, but to reveal who you truly are when no one is looking. The problem is that most people react impulsively. They complain, explode, play the victim, and that is exactly where they lose the game. True power is not in controlling the world, but in not allowing the world to control you. While many waste energy trying to change people, the strong work in silence to fortify their own minds. Jim Rohn said that maturity begins when you stop blaming others and take command of your life. The silent power of the mind is born when you understand that you don't have to react to everything. Not everything deserves your response. Not every provocation demands a reaction. Not every pain needs to turn into a scandal. There is enormous strength in knowing how to feel everything, but choosing how to act. Overcoming challenges is not about eliminating difficulties. It's about developing the mental structure to cross them without losing yourself. The person who builds this mind does not despair when things go wrong. They adjust the route. They learn. They continue. You don't control what happens, but you control the interpretation. And the one who dominates the interpretation dominates the result. This is the point where most fail. They leave their minds loose, undisciplined, reacting to the environment. But the one who learns to govern their own thoughts creates an internal fortress that no storm can tear down. This video is not about fleeting motivation. It is about construction, about character, about mental discipline. Because without it, no success is sustained. And with it, even the biggest challenges become stepping stones. Jim Rohn was direct. Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishments. Without it, everything turns into empty intention. You may know what to do, you may want to change, you may feel inspired today, but if you don't have self-discipline, nothing happens. The silent power of the mind manifests when you do what needs to be done, even without the desire. When you wake up early without applause. When you remain firm even when you are tired. When you choose not to respond in anger. When you say no to immediate pleasure because you see something greater ahead. Most people lose important battles due to a lack of emotional control. They let anger decide, anxiety rush, fear paralyze. But Jim Rohn taught that emotions need to be educated, not obeyed. Strength is not the absence of feeling. Strength is mastery. It is feeling everything and still choosing with clarity. Whoever does not master their own emotions ends up being controlled by them. And those who are controlled by them never overcome big challenges. The modern world is noisy. Everyone reacts. Everyone gives an opinion. Everyone wants to prove something. But those who truly grow learn to be silent. Silence becomes strategy. The pause becomes power. While some explode, others observe. While some complain, others adjust. While some give up, others persist without announcing it. This is the silent power of the mind in action. Self-discipline is not punishment. It is freedom. It is not being a hostage to mood, laziness, or neediness. It is building a mind that doesn't depend on external motivation to continue. The person who develops this discipline becomes dangerous in the best sense of the word, because they cannot be easily shaken. They don't need to prove anything. They just keep going. Every challenge carries discomfort, and most people run away from it. They get distracted, numb, and hide. But Jim Rohn taught that real growth requires confrontation. There is no evolution without discomfort. There is no strength without pressure. The silent power of the mind appears when you stop running from pain and start learning from it. When you accept that difficulties are not a sign of failure, but of construction. That the most difficult moments are the ones that shape your identity. Silence is where the truth appears. It is there that you meet yourself. Without masks. Without applause. Without distractions. And many people cannot bear this meeting, because it demands honesty. But the one who faces this silence comes out stronger, more lucid, firmer, Because they learn to rely internally, not on external validation. They learn to walk even when misunderstood. They learn to continue even when ignored. Jim Rohn said that character is built in the invisible, in what you do when no one is watching, in what you choose when there is no immediate reward, in the commitment you maintain even when no one is demanding it. Challenges test exactly this. They ask, are you going to give up or are you going to mature? Are you going to complain or are you going to learn? Are you going to react or are you going to grow? The person who develops a silent mind understands that they don't need to explain everything, justify everything, or answer everything. They protect their energy, choose their battles, and win more than they lose. Jim Rohn taught that the difference between who wins and who gives up is not talent, it's persistence. Most people stop too early. They stop when it gets difficult. They stop when they don't see immediate results. They stop when recognition doesn't come. But those who win understand a simple law: results respect those who don't stop. The world may ignore you for a while, but it cannot ignore consistency for a long time. The silent power of the mind is revealed when you continue even without guarantees. When you trust the process. When you build in the dark knowing that, at some point, the light appears. You don't need to be understood. You need to be consistent. You don't need to convince anyone. You need to keep going. Respect is born from posture, not explanation. Over time, something changes. You lose interest in empty conversations, in distractions, in other people's opinions. Your focus becomes sharper, your mind calmer, your presence firmer. And that's when challenges stop frightening you, because you no longer depend on external circumstances to stay on your feet. You have become the foundation. Jim Rohn said that the biggest project of your life is yourself. And when you build a strong, disciplined, and silent mind, no challenge is too big. If you've made it this far, it's because you are already on this path. Continue, in silence, with firmness, with discipline, because those who speak little and do a lot are the ones who win in the end. The silent power of the mind does not call attention, but it transforms everything. There is a moment in life when you realize something uncomfortable, yet liberating. No one is coming to save you. Jim Rohn taught that the day you take total responsibility for your life is the day the game starts to change. As long as you blame the past, people, the system, or a lack of opportunities, you surrender your power. The silent power of the mind is born when you say, "It may not be my fault, but it is my responsibility." Challenges do not ask if you are ready. They appear. And at that moment there are two types of people. Those who complain and those who adapt. Those who feel wronged and those who strengthen themselves. Taking responsibility is not blaming yourself. It is taking control. It is understanding that, even when you did not choose the problem, you can choose the response. And that choice changes everything. Jim Rohn said that success is something you attract by the person you become. Not by what you wish for, but by what you build internally. And this requires emotional maturity, mental discipline, and the courage to stop outsourcing your own life. The silent power of the mind manifests when you stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and start asking, "What is this teaching me?" That question changes your posture, your energy, and your results. The person who overcomes challenges is not the one who had fewer problems, but the one who developed more responsibility over themselves. And that is frightening because it removes the excuses, but it is liberating because it returns control. Jim Rohn said that success does not come from doing more things, but from doing fewer things with more intention. One of the biggest challenges of modern life is dispersion. Too much information, too many opinions, too many paths, and too little clarity. The silent power of the mind grows when you learn to cut. Cut distractions. Cut excess. Cut draining relationships. Cut habits that hold you back. Focus is saying no. It is giving up the immediate to build something greater. It is understanding that you cannot overcome every challenge if you keep trying to please everyone. Most people live busy, but they do not live in progress. They run all day, but they don't go anywhere. Jim Rohn taught that activity is not progress. Progress requires direction. When your mind is silent, your priorities become clear. You stop wasting energy on what doesn't build. You stop explaining too much. You stop justifying yourself. And you start acting with intention. Challenges become smaller when your focus is big. And focus is not born from motivation. It is born from decision. The decision to protect your mental energy as something sacred. The person who learns to focus is not lost when the world tries to distract them. They know where they are going. And that changes everything. One of the biggest challenges in life is to remain whole in a world that tries to fragment you. Opinions, comparisons, criticisms, external expectations. Everything tries to mold you. Jim Rohn taught that you become the average of the influences you allow into your mind. And that's why the silent power of the mind requires selectivity. You cannot absorb everything. You cannot listen to everyone. You cannot be guided by every criticism or compliment. The person who lives like this loses their own identity. Overcoming challenges requires knowing who you are, even when the world tries to label you. It requires maintaining values even when it's easier to give in. It requires remaining firm even when misunderstood. A strong mind does not change direction with every external opinion. It listens, evaluates, and decides. It doesn't react. It chooses. The clearer your identity, the less external noise affects you. And the less you react, the more respect you generate. Jim Rohn said that maturity is doing what needs to be done, not what is popular. And this requires a mind trained to withstand the temporary loneliness of growth. Not everyone will understand you. And that's okay. The person who has identity does not need constant approval. Every challenge tests one thing above all: consistency. It's not about starting strong. It's about continuing when the enthusiasm is gone. Jim Rohn taught that the pain of discipline weighs ounces, but the pain of regret weighs tons. And it is precisely at this point that most people fail. They start, get excited, believe, and stop. They stop when they don't see quick results. They stop when they get tired. They stop when no one recognizes them. But those who win understand that progress is silent. That roots grow in the dark. That results take time, but they arrive. The silent power of the mind is to continue even when it seems like nothing is happening. It is trusting the process. It is repeating the basics. It is maintaining the standard. Over time, something changes. The mind becomes stronger. Decisions are firmer. Challenges are smaller. And the world begins to respond. Not because you asked, but because you have become someone impossible to ignore. Jim Rohn said that success is not something you chase. It is something you build within. And when that happens, overcoming challenges stops being the exception and becomes a consequence. Continue. Silent. Disciplined. Focused. Because those who don't stop, arrive. Most people fail, not because they are incapable, but because they are too comfortable. Jim Rohn always said that complacency is a silent enemy. When you get comfortable, you lose the advantage. The secret is to do what needs to be done, even when there is no urgency. The silent power of the mind is forged in the fight against laziness and procrastination. Often, the biggest challenges are not external difficulties, but the internal fight against the desire to stay where you are. When you choose not to get comfortable, you grow. When you decide to act, even without motivation, you advance. But successful people don't wait to feel ready. They don't wait for the perfect moment. They do what needs to be done, even when tiredness, doubt, or fear want to take over. If you are comfortable, you are parked. True evolution comes when you decide that discomfort is part of the process. Jim Rohn said that success does not have an exact price, but it requires one thing: sacrifice. You will have to give up many things to achieve what you truly desire. You will need to cut what pulls you back. The silent power of the mind is not just about maintaining focus, but knowing where to invest your energy. You cannot give everything to everyone, and at the same time, expect to build something big. Sacrifice is not losing something forever, it is gaining something greater. It is investing your energy in what truly matters. Not wasting time on distractions. Not getting lost in conversations without purpose. Not consuming content that does not add value. Success requires consistency. And consistency requires the ability to make daily sacrifices. The strong mind understands this and chooses, every day, where to put its energy. While you choose constancy, most choose convenience. While you sacrifice to build yourself, others choose momentary pleasure. Jim Rohn said, "You are the result of your decisions." Nothing can define you more than the way you decide to see yourself and the world. The silent power of the mind is having total control over your internal narrative. Most people let the world define who they are, but the one who overcomes challenges is the one who writes their own story. You cannot control what others think of you, but you can control how you think about yourself. And this internal change is what creates external results. Don't let others define your worth. Don't let circumstances dictate who you become. You are the author of your own story, and that story begins in your mind. When you define who you are, the world begins to respect that definition. It is no longer about pleasing, it is about being true to yourself, even if no one else understands. Jim Rohn wrote, "The difference between those who win and those who give up is persistence." The biggest difference between those who achieve great things and those who give up along the way is not a lack of talent or luck, but the ability to continue when everything seems lost. The silent power of the mind is to remain. Even when there is no applause, even when no one sees you, even when it seems like your efforts are not working. Whoever gives up early will never see the end of the journey. What you need to understand is that the finish line never announces that it is near. It only appears to those who insist, to those who continue even when it no longer makes sense. The final victory is not an event. It is a daily choice. A choice not to stop. A choice to keep moving, even when results are not yet visible. And when success finally arrives, you are not surprised, because you already knew it would only come to those who had the persistence and patience necessary to endure the journey.